The nurse handed me my phone while I was still hooked to an IV. I blinked, groggy from anesthesia, barely able to sit up, and saw it. A message from my husband. I signed the divorce papers. I've moved the money. Don't overreact. I need space. You'll survive. No warning. No conversation. Just betrayal. Quiet. Surgical. He'd waited until I was unconscious on an operating table to end our marriage. He'd emptied our joint account while I couldn't even speak. He didn't even show up at the hospital. My name is Elena. I'm 39. And the man who thought I'd be too weak to fight back had no idea I'd already started preparing for this months ago. Welcome to Revenge Bloom. Let's begin. There's a strange kind of clarity that comes after anesthesia, like your mind wakes up faster than your body. But that morning, I didn't feel clear. I felt hollow. The hospital room smelled like alcohol wipes and silence. The nurse smiled softly and said, "Your husband dropped off your phone earlier this morning. He didn't stay. Of course he didn't." Reached for it with trembling fingers, expecting a get-well message. Instead, I saw 3 words on the lock screen. Check your email. Inside was the divorce notification. Digitally signed. Filed and processed. And below it, another message. I've transferred what's mine. Don't make this harder than it needs to be. No. I'm sorry. No. We'll talk when you're better. Just a spreadsheet showing that our joint account, which had paid our mortgage, my medical bills, and everything in between, now had a balance of $1,307, the account I'd been funding for years. The account he hadn't touched until the day I was cut open. It was strategic, and it was meant to break me. But what Mark didn't know, what he never cared to ask, was that this surgery had given me time to think, time to remember the late nights, the whispered calls he took in the garage, the way he suddenly became obsessed with financial independence, only after I inherited my mother's house and scaled my boutique. He thought I didn't notice when he started skipping dinners, that I believed his gym stories, that I didn't see the way his new health coach smiled at him a little too long. He also didn't notice that I'd quietly started meeting with a lawyer 2 months ago, or that I had opened an account in my own name, at a separate bank, or that I'd begun moving portions of my boutique income, the same boutique he called my little hobby, into a locked business trust. Every insult he whispered when he thought I wasn't listening. Every smirk when I mentioned retirement. Planning. Every time he brushed off my success as just a side hustle, I remembered it, and I filed it. I kept the receipts. The screenshots. The loan application he thought I wouldn't find, listing my business as a shared marital asset. The flirtatious messages between him and the yoga instructor from his gym. The one who accidentally sent me a fire emoji once. The truth is, by the time Mark made his move, I'd already made mine. 3 weeks before my surgery, I told him I wanted to simplify our lives. "Let's consolidate accounts," I'd said. "Just one card, one statement, cleaner bookkeeping." He smiled like he'd won something. I smiled too, because it meant I could track exactly what he thought he was hiding. I watched him. Test me. He bought concert tickets and lied about them. He subscribed to a dating site under a burner card. He moved $600 out of our joint account to pay for a weekend conference that didn't exist, and I let it all happen. Because I knew every move would make my case stronger. Because I needed him to believe he had the upper hand. Lying in that hospital bed, I stared at his message until the screen went dark. I didn't cry. I didn't reply. I didn't even tell the nurse. I just whispered, "He thinks it's over." That's adorable. Mark always underestimated quiet. He thought power was loud, flashy, dominant. He never understood that real strength is silent and patient. What he didn't realize is that while he was draining our joint account, I was preparing to drain something far more valuable: his credibility, his access, his future. And I was just getting started. I was discharged the next afternoon. Mark didn't come to pick me up. He didn't send a car. He didn't even text to ask if I made it home. It didn't matter. I had already started making calls before they removed the IV from my hand. The first number I dialed was my lawyer's. She answered on the second ring. "He finally did it," I said. There was no need for details. She already knew what I meant. "Divorced you?" "During surgery." A pause. Then it's our turn. She had already prepared everything. Not because I told her what Mark would do, but because I told her who he was. The moment I discovered that hidden credit card, the late-night Uber charges to luxury hotels, the changed passwords, I knew what kind of ending he was planning, and I made sure mine would be cleaner. We filed the emergency injunction by 10 a.m. By noon, a judge had frozen all remaining joint accounts. Not that there was much left, but he wouldn't be able to touch the business, because unlike him, I kept records. Unlike him, I didn't try to hide things. I documented them. Next, I called the credit card company, the one tied to our joint account, the one he used to book flights for himself and the wellness consultant he'd met at his gym. "Mrs. Ward," the agent said politely, "how can I help you?" "I need to report fraudulent charges." "Can you confirm which transactions?" "Yes. 2 first-class tickets to Los Angeles, a suite reservation at the Beverly Fountain, and an absurd spa package that includes something called a gold leaf facial." There was a pause, then a barely contained chuckle. "Do you have documentation?" I sent the screenshot of Mark's smug message. "Enjoy the surgery. I'll be in LA by the time you wake up." "Oh, and I used the joint card. Figured it was fair. LOL. They canceled the entire itinerary, flagged the card, removed his name as an authorized user. By the time Mark arrived at the airport, he would find nothing waiting for him. Not a boarding pass, not a hotel key, not a dime. I didn't text him, didn't warn him. I let the silence do the work. That evening, I poured myself a glass of wine, the one I'd been saving for the day I launched my second boutique. Instead, I toasted the death of an illusion. He thought I'd be shattered. He thought I'd be desperate, confused, paralyzed. He forgot that I own a business, not a scrapbook. He forgot that while he was flirting with personal trainers, I was filing asset protection paperwork under my maiden name. He forgot who built this life. My phone buzzed around 8 p.m. Why isn't the hotel booking working? Then another. Credit card declined. What the hell is going on? Then, "Elena, call me. I'll explain everything." I didn't reply. By 10 p.m., I received an email from the airline. "Your reservation was successfully canceled and refunded to the original cardholder." Perfect. The next morning, the calls began. Not from Mark, from his mother. "Elena, dear, we heard from Mark. He said you're being difficult?" I put her on speaker while I folded inventory. "Difficult how?" "Well," he mentioned, "you froze the accounts and canceled the tickets. He says he's stranded." I arranged the blouses by size and said, "Did he also mention he emptied our joint savings while I was under anesthesia?" Silence. "Or that he booked a romantic vacation with a 26-year-old and charged it to my business card?" Another pause. Then, in a much quieter voice, "He said you'd understand." "I do. That's why I'm not calling the police." And I hung up. I didn't feel angry. I didn't even feel proud. I felt focused. Because I knew Mark. I knew he wasn't done trying. And I was ready. That afternoon, my lawyer called. He's already trying to file a motion to claim partial ownership of the boutique. "Let him," I said. "He thinks he can bluff his way into something he never valued." She laughed. He's going to learn that financial ignorance is not a legal strategy. Mark had tried to rewrite the rules of our marriage. Now he was about to meet the fine print. And he was about to learn what happens when you bet against a woman who documents everything. By the time Mark touched down in Los Angeles, everything he'd planned had already unraveled. His phone buzzed the moment they landed, not with welcome messages, but with fraud alerts. Card declined. Booking error. Room unavailable. The yoga instructor, her name was Talia, tried to stay calm, according to her Instagram post that evening. I wasn't following her, of course. But people talk. Mutual friends screenshot everything. She'd posted a filtered, selfie-captioned, "When your luxury weekend turns into a motel room with broken air conditioning, manifesting better energy." The comments were brutal. That same morning, my lawyer filed the emergency motion to freeze all remaining shared assets. We already had screenshots of Mark's confession. His LOL might have seemed casual to him, but in court, it read like intent. The judge agreed. All joint access revoked. Travel records subpoenaed. Business claim formally challenged and flagged for fraud. Mark wouldn't know any of this until Monday. But by then, he'd already be knee-deep in damage control. He called 6 times that afternoon. I ignored everyone. He left a voicemail on the 7th. "I think we should talk. You're being unreasonable. This doesn't have to get ugly." Funny how calm he sounded when he thought he held all the cards. Now that he had nothing but a motel, key and a cheap rental car, suddenly he wanted peace. That evening, his mother called again. This time she sounded different. "Elena, I don't know what's going on with him. He told us everything, but I read his messages. I'm ashamed. That's not how we raised him." "He told you?" "No. His sister Amanda forwarded the screenshots. He sent them to her by mistake." "Of course he did. I didn't say much, because I didn't need to." By then, the truth was speaking for itself. Monday morning arrived like a reckoning. Mark had to appear in court via Zoom from a cafe Wi-Fi connection because their motel's internet wasn't working. He wore sunglasses indoors. Probably thought it made him look composed. He just looked ridiculous. His lawyer tried to argue that I'd overreacted, that she acted punitively, that she canceled his travel plans out of spite. My lawyer smiled. Then she played the voicemail. "Enjoy the surgery. I'll be in LA by the time you wake up. Used the joint card. Figured it was fair. LOL." She followed it with screenshots, emails, receipts, timestamps showing he signed divorce documents while I was under anesthesia, bank logs confirming the exact time the account was drained, and messages that proved premeditation. The judge leaned back and sighed. "Mr. Ward," she said, "you used shared marital funds to finance a trip with another woman during your wife's surgery. And now you're seeking access to a business you've never contributed to?" Mark shifted in his chair. "I supported her. Do you have evidence of financial support?" She always said I was her inspiration. The judge didn't even blink. Inspiration is not equity. Then came the final blow. My lawyer presented the incorporation documents. My boutique had always been registered in my name only. He was never on the board, never on the payroll, never signed a lease, a loan, or a contract. And the cherry on top? A screenshot of a message he'd sent a friend 2 months earlier. "It's not even a real business, just her little shop." The judge raised an eyebrow. "Your Honor," my lawyer said, "that little shop generated over $300,000 in net revenue last fiscal year. All reported separately. All protected." I watched the realization creep across Mark's face. He wasn't getting a payout. He wasn't taking half. He wasn't even getting access to the paperwork. The court froze all remaining joint assets and ordered him to return the money he took, in full, within 30 days. He opened his mouth to argue. The judge held up a hand. "You used shared funds during active medical recovery without consent. This court considers that financial misconduct. You're lucky this isn't a criminal hearing." Then she smiled, just slightly, and said, "You wanted a clean break, Mr. Ward. Congratulations. You're getting one." Talia left the motel 2 days later. She posted something vague about learning from misaligned energies and starting over alone. Apparently, Mark had tried to pitch the boutique as our future. She wasn't impressed. That week, I finalized the paperwork to open a second location. Same city, bigger space, new team. Mark called again. This time he didn't leave a message. But his sister did. "I'm so sorry," Amanda said. "He played all of us, said you were cold, that you didn't support his dreams. But I've seen the texts. He's just pathetic." "He's not pathetic," I replied. "He's unprepared. That's different." That Friday, I placed a framed photo on the wall behind my boutique's front counter. It wasn't of me or my store. It was a screenshot. The message he sent me, the day of my surgery. "I need freedom. You'll bounce back. You're strong." Below it, I had engraved a single line. "You thought I wouldn't." Mark used to tell people my boutique was cute. He'd chuckle and say, "It keeps her busy, gives her something to do," like it was a hobby, like it wasn't funding half our life. Now that cute little shop was on the cover of a local business magazine, right beside the headline, "From Divorce to Dominance, How One Woman Turned Betrayal into a Business Empire." I didn't ask for the article. They found me. Apparently someone on the editorial team had seen my court hearing. Word got around. It always does, especially in small cities with big mouths. The day the article dropped, I sold out my entire inventory of designer handbags before noon. Women kept stopping in, some just to shake my hand. "He tried to destroy you, and you turned it into leverage," one of them said. "I'm buying too, just to support the story." Another woman told me her ex tried something similar. "Thought he'd take half my salon in the divorce," she whispered. Didn't expect me to be smarter than him. We laughed. It was the kind of laugh that comes from survival, not joy. It's deeper than that. Richer. Meanwhile, Mark was back at his parents' house. He hadn't been able to repay the funds he drained, so the court seized his car. His mother called again. "I just want you to know we're not defending him anymore," she said quietly. "I'm not asking you to," I replied. "No, but I feel like I need to say it. We believed him, Elena. We thought you'd turned cold. But then we saw what he wrote, what he did. That wasn't just selfish, it was cruel." I didn't say anything. She added, "I bought a scarf from your store yesterday. It's beautiful." That made me smile. Mark tried dating again. Amanda, his sister, told me he made a new dating profile. Entrepreneur, young at heart, seeking a partner for adventure. He'd posted an old photo, taken years ago before the gym obsession and designer jeans that didn't fit. The comments were unkind. Apparently women talk, and the ones who didn't know his story yet. Talia helped fill them in. She posted screenshots of his texts, the manipulation, the whining, the "you'll regret leaving me" nonsense. He'd gone from Miami dreamer to town punchline. Meanwhile, I launched my online store. Traffic surged. I hired 2 new employees, booked a branding workshop. The boutique was no longer just a shop. It was an anchor. A symbol. My lawyer called to update me on Mark's appeal attempts. All 3 were denied. The judge added a line to the last one. "This court does not reward premeditated betrayal." Thought you'd enjoy that. I did. Had the original text message, the one he sent me during surgery, framed and hanging above my desk. Not out of spite, but as a reminder of how far I'd come. Below it, I'd added a quote in gold lettering. "Success is the best response, but documentation helps." People started asking me to speak, at women's business events, college entrepreneurship, clubs, even a podcast for divorce attorneys. Not about heartbreak, about structure, about planning, about protecting what you build from people who think love is a shortcut to entitlement. One woman raised her hand during a Q&A and said, "My fiancé says keeping my business separate is cold. That if I really love him, I should share everything." I looked at her and said calmly, "My ex-husband said the same thing, until he tried to take half. Protecting yourself isn't unloving, it's smart, because love should never come with paperwork threats." Around that time, Mark tried contacting me again. He sent an email. "I made mistakes. We both did. Maybe we can talk. Just clear the air." I didn't reply. My assistant flagged it and added it to the archive folder labeled Post-Divorce, Fallout. We called it that because it was getting full. Texts from mutual friends who'd taken his side, now backpedaling. Random acquaintances asking if the rumors were true. Even people from his office, where apparently HR had opened a file on him after the whole receptionist scandal. He never got promoted. In fact, the role he held had been dissolved during a restructuring. Last I heard, he was driving for a rideshare company. His mom bought him a phone charger for the car. Melissa, the receptionist, never reached out. But she liked one of my boutique's Instagram posts, the one about resilience, with a photo of a cracked vase that had been repaired with gold leaf. Kintsugi, the art of letting scars become strength. It made sense. She was young, but she'd learned the hard way. We both had. One afternoon, as I was closing up, a young couple walked in, small business owners, looking for help with their branding. They'd heard my story, wanted advice. I told them what I wish someone had told me. Build clean. Separate your life from your business, and never let anyone convince you that protecting yourself means you're untrusting. The girl nodded. The guy looked slightly uncomfortable. But that's how growth starts. That night, I walked home alone. Not sad, not bitter. Just complete. He thought he was writing the ending to my story, but all he did was turn the page to a new chapter. And in that chapter, I wasn't broken. I was the author. 2 years later, I stood in front of a crowd of 200 women. The third location of my boutique had just opened, and the local business conference had invited me to speak. The topic wasn't divorce. It wasn't betrayal. It was protection. It was planning. It was how to keep what's yours, even when love tries to rewrite the fine print. A woman in the back raised her hand during the Q&A. "My boyfriend says keeping our finances separate makes him feel like I don't trust him," she said. "That it's not romantic." I smiled. Not bitterly, knowingly. "My ex-husband said the same thing," I replied. "He also said I was strong, right before he emptied our joint account while I was unconscious in surgery." Gasps filled the room. But I wasn't angry when I said it. I was calm. Because it wasn't a scar anymore. It was part of my foundation. Later that evening, my assistant helped me prep for a press interview. We sat in my office, the walls lined with framed awards, newspaper clippings, and handwritten thank you notes from small business owners I'd mentored. Above my desk hung 2 frames. One held the text Mark sent the day of my surgery. "You'll bounce back. You're strong. Don't make this harder than it is." The second held a gold-plated quote. "You thought I wouldn't." Mark never got the life he thought he was escaping to. After Talia left, he bounced between jobs, tried selling insurance, tried launching a YouTube channel, tried crypto. None of it stuck. His sister told me he'd moved into a rental above a dry cleaner. Same neighborhood we used to mock for being too run down. He started blaming the system. Blaming bad luck. Blaming vindictive women who weaponize courtrooms. I never replied to his emails. I never answered his calls. There was nothing left to say. And nothing he said could change the outcome. His mother visited the boutique once. She waited until the store was empty before approaching the counter. "I just wanted to say thank you," she said, "for teaching our family a lesson we should have learned earlier." I didn't respond right away. She continued. "Mark still talks about the life he lost. He still thinks he was robbed. But we know. We've seen the documents, the messages. We know the truth. Now!" She glanced around the store, the elegant display tables, the minimalist decor, the warmth. "This is what he could have been part of," she said. "No," I replied. "This is what he tried to take." Melissa, the yoga instructor, had gone back to school, got a degree in marketing, started her own consulting agency. She became a loyal customer, oddly enough. Always polite, always quiet. One afternoon she asked if I wanted to collaborate on a campaign. I said yes. Not because I needed her, but because I saw growth in her that deserved space. After our first project went live, she emailed me privately. "I believed everything he said about you. That you were cold, ungrateful, over-controlling." Then I watched him try those same lines on me, word for word. "I'm sorry. You didn't deserve what happened. But thank you for showing me what moving forward really looks like." 5. Years after the surgery, my boutique chain was featured in a national magazine. They called me a pillar of resilience. The interviewer asked what advice I'd give to women trying to protect what they build. I looked right into the camera and said, "Love can be real, but documentation is permanent, and one doesn't cancel out the other." That night, I walked alone through the boutique's original location, the one I'd nearly lost. The lights were dimmed, the street outside quiet. I ran my fingers across the marble counter, once covered in papers and panic, and I smiled. Not because I'd won, because I'd survived. Because I'd grown. Because I had built something stronger than a marriage built on entitlement. Mark tried to erase my future while I was unconscious. But he forgot something. You can't steal from someone who's already protected. And you can't destroy someone who's already rebuilt. Outside, the wind carried the scent of jasmine through the open door. I stepped out, locked up, and walked away, heels echoing confidently into the night. Somewhere, Mark was probably staring at a screen, still wondering how he lost everything. But the truth is, he didn't lose it. He gave it up. For nothing.